All right, let's get this straight. All religions are not the same. Okay, so if religion is an act of justice whereby we give God his due through worship, this only leads to the question, what kind of worship is due to God anyways? Well, if God is transcendent and all-powerful, could we ever even hope to find an answer to that question? Now, this problem has tempted many to conclude that since virtually all cultures throughout history have practiced acts of religion, all religion must, in the end, be equally satisfying to God. Every human expression of prayer and devotion would be equally acceptable, right? Well, as we have seen before, on a superficial level, this conclusion might seem plausible. But when we scratch beneath the surface, we find that not only is reality more complicated, but also more beautiful than we first expected. Now, we must begin with a distinction. All human acts of religion may be looked at in two different ways. First, from the part of the subject worshiping, and second, from the part of the object being worshipped. Now, the subject worshiping is naturally the person offering worship to God. And acts of religion receive their value from the devotion with which we offer them. As already said, devotion is the interior act by which we truly will to do things for God. When we worship God with devotion, we put our hearts into our worship and, with a sincere desire, truly wish to offer God what we owe him. Now, from this subjective perspective, the actual content of what we offer to God, that is, the external acts by which we express this devotion or the material things used to symbolize our desires, are of less account, because it is precisely the interior devotion by which we practice religion that invests all that we do offer with the value that it has. Thus, one could argue that it doesn't matter what religion we practice as long as our hearts are in the right place. However, this subjective perspective is only half the story. The question looks different when we look at religion from an objective point of view. From the part of view of the object, that is, the God who is being worshipped, acts of religion do justice to God, not simply through our devotion alone, but also when the objects or actions offered are worthy of him in some way. In other words, true religion seeks to give real justice to God, not justice that exists merely in our thoughts and intentions. True religion seeks real justice with God in what we do and say, not merely in how we feel. To put it another way, we need God to be pleased with our worship, since after all, he's the one being worshipped. To that end, if we ask the question, are all religions the same, we must first ask, are all actions done for God the same? That is, are all human offerings given to God equally worthy of him? Now, it is not hard to see that recast in this way, our question might yield different results. And again, we must distinguish between an objective and a subjective perspective. From the objective point of view, God is the infinite, all-powerful, and all-knowing creator of the cosmos. No finite human act could ever be worthy of his infinite dignity. No matter how great or however numerous they may be, all finite human acts of religion could never add up to or be equal to the debt of gratitude owed to God as our creator and sustainer. Thus, St. Thomas Aquinas explains that the virtue of religion is only a potential part of justice, since it can never fully give God all that is his due. So, from the objective perspective, we can indeed say that, in a sense, all human acts of religion are the same. They're all equally deficient. So, is there no hope for humanity to ever offer back to God an act of worship that is worthy of him? Well, this is where the story gets interesting. The good news of the Christian faith is precisely this. God himself has provided us with an act of worship greater than we could ever provide for ourselves. An act of worship whereby we, through our own prayer and devotion, are able to offer back to God our Father an infinite offering worthy of him. This offering is none other than the holy sacrifice of the Mass. whereby Jesus Christ, that is, God himself in the flesh, becomes our offering, and in his own person offers both himself and us back to the Father in perfect love. In other words, Jesus Christ offers himself as an infinite act of worship to the Father, not in a way that excludes our human acts of devotion and prayer, but more profoundly, in a way that incorporates our worship into his own. Thus, the offering of the holy sacrifice of the Mass is indeed a human act of worship, but it is not merely a human act on par with all the rest. It is so much more. It is also a divine act whereby God is worshiped, and you and I are brought finally into relationship with God. So then, to answer our question, are all religions the same? Well, simply no. All religions are not the same. Yes, all human religion seeks God with sincere hearts, but it is only through the sacraments of the Catholic Church that God can be fittingly worshiped and praised. Moreover, it is only through the sacraments of the Catholic Church that you and I can ever fully enter into true union with God. Brothers and sisters, keep studying. This is Father Brad Elliott for the Western Dominican Province.